Most recently, as I was introduced, I'm the Chief Academic Officer for the STEM Academy. We are a nonprofit institution that's K post-secondary, built by teachers for teachers. I want to tell you a little bit about what STEM is. STEM is a meta-discipline. It's interdisciplinary. It's the work that we do every day and integrate it along with all the other teachers in the school. I was having a nice conversation with Ray Landis. He said, well, tell me a little more about that. Well, the idea is we're showing real reason for education to these students. As they get in their engineering careers or their actual careers, we need to develop those skills more specifically so it's less global and more specific. So it contracts a little bit as you get up in age in schools. Imagine this, knowing why you're in an English class in high school and as it relates to your science class and how the science relates to math and how that math relates to the psychology or social studies of the work and how does PE fit in. A lot of students don't know why they go from compartment to compartment to compartment. And none of that information is ever shared with one another. That's what STEM tries to do. That's the idea of STEM. Now, some would say, well, it should be STEAM. There should be an A in there, right? And what does the A stand for? Some would argue that it's arts. I would agree. Some would argue that it's agriculture, and I would agree, right? The pedagogy of STEM is really about getting all that to matter together. I've also seen STREAM. What does the R stand for? Rhetoric. Is it reading? Is it religion? The idea is getting us all this information in one package that makes sense to kids. So it's a pedagogy, not an acronym. I'm going to show you a project that we recently finished in Houston. This is with inner city urban students that often were having problems in school. And they were challenged to, over the course of a year, design a homeless shelter. And they had sponsors, we had folks donating things, and this is out of 90% biodegradable material. They chose cardboard. So this is the model. There's some calculations, all the information that's the background on this. Then we had to build it. What I want to bring up to you is that some of these students, or most of these students, have an issue with follow-through in their lives. There's not a whole lot of things that get finished. At the beginning of the year, they knew that this project was going on, but they didn't really expect to finish it. So when it came time to actually build one of the 30-some-odd designs that were there, this was about 130 or 140 students. We actually built it. And then they had to talk about it, stand up and present it to folks, much like I'm doing with you now, much like your students do within your courses. And then they were so excited that this thing was actually done, so you see an interior shot, etc. But the idea is to finish. It's hard to finish. 70% is relatively achievable, but finishing is hard. And then, oh, by the way, yes, I am raising my own family now, much like many of you, 6-year-old twins at home. One of the interesting things that we have seen as well in the work that I've done, and I'll move on to the next section, is that Clemson University is, for the first time, offering College of Engineering credit for our courses. Many institutions, including the NCATC, also do that. But this is not elective credit. This is actually mattering inside the College of Engineering. If I know and am able to produce to you a rationale that these students know and are able to do things, then they should be able to achieve that. So here's an exercise for you. On the next slide, you're going to see something. What I'd like you to do is either write down what you see or lean over and loudly or quietly tell your neighbor what you see on the next slide. This is audience participation, right? By the way, I'll tell you a story about that in a second. So what do you see? Okay, so what's the answer, right? Well, actually what you see is the light at the end of the tunnel. Or it's the headlight of a speeding train. It could be, when I asked it could be a Virginia restaurant. The Whites, anybody here from Virginia? Have you had Gus's Gut Burger? No, right, so all the students have, but not the faculty. I asked my son, he said it was Spider-Man's eye, right? Actually, the real answer, it's the belly button on a hippopotamus. The idea is it's whatever you want it to be. So often in workshops and symposiums, I ask the question, and the answer is it's a white dot, Al. White dot on a black screen, it's a hole in a screen, etc. Well, as adults, we try to optimize. And in your defense, you say, white dot, what's next, right? In your defense, I didn't ask you what it could be. Right? So if you change the wording up a little bit, you can inspire creativity. What is it, or what could it be? So that exercise was talking about creativity and innovation. That was done unscientifically with elementary school students and high school students. And they went and asked elementary school students and said, what do you see? And they had all these crazy ideas like a dot on a gecko or a top of an eraser, et cetera. It's the moon and the stars. And then they went to high schools and asked the same question. You know what the answer was? White dot. Right about third grade is where students figure it out. Teachers are looking for answers. And instead of being creative and innovative, they give the answer the teacher's looking for to optimize. Third or fourth grade. The good news is that creativity exists in all of us. Human beings are incredibly capable people, right? We have this incredible capacity to do things. Whether we have the desire or not, that's to be, understood. So success. What determines success? What is successful? I don't know how many of you have actually looked at unsubsidized student loan rates. Mortgage rates right now are at 4%. Student loan rates are expensive money. In 98 to 2006, this is the money that I spent. It was a wise investment there. It was an easy investment. But at 7.9%, it's something that folks are thinking about, right? This is how much your students in college are going to be taking out in loans this summer to pay for next school year. $63 billion. That's big business. So another story. This is my friend Bill. That's me, and that's a Diet Coke, right? This is a project we're working on in northern Wisconsin's family project for the last 10 years. And yes, that's my father at the backside of there watching us. He can do that because he's retired, right? He's worked real hard. So here's the story of Al and Bill. My bachelor's degree, he's an apprentice electrician. Now he's a master's electrician. This is what my career was supposed to look like. About $40,000 a year average. I didn't adjust anything for inflation or raises. On average, we're paying $25,000 a year for college. And typically 5 years. I put in 5%. We're looking at 8% now, so that number is actually higher. And here's Bill. He had no loans, and he was paid while he was being educated. And you can see how things might differ. I wondered why in the first few years of work after college, I had no money. Couldn't buy a couch. I was still operating with cinder blocks and 2x4s for shelving. Well, if you look, I'm in a deficit paying things back. So who's the winner? Now, some would say, well, it depends on what you call winning, and we'll ask Charlie Sheen for that. But the idea is that students determine success on the almighty dollar. So if you look at that, here's $368,000. Would you like that? And I don't know anybody that's going to turn that down. What are you trying to do for your needs? Raise a family, travel the world, tour different places. Provide for your needs is what we need to do as individuals in the work area. So who's doing it right? And I don't know that I'm going to stand here, or any of us could actually stand and tell Bill that he's doing it wrong. Plus he's 6'5" and a pretty strong individual. So. Another story for you. I'm going to give you a product example. And we're going to walk through that product together. This product has millions of unique parts. It has hundreds to thousands of suppliers. There are different systems of documentation among suppliers. There are different standards used to measure quality. There are increasing costs in this product. As phases of product are handed off to another division, lack of information is passed. History and details of work are scarce. Metrics do not match one another. Goals of divisions are different, and work is often repeated or missed entirely. Technology is rarely used to document details. Often parts are misplaced or lost. Less than half of the final product is ready for shipment. Sounds like a lot of consulting work, right? This fictitious product is our education system. The product at the end could be much better optimized, meaning who's feeding you? I'd like to introduce a term today. Let's introduce a term to each other today. We talk about concurrent engineering. Let's talk about concurrent education. Let's talk about elementary schools that actually talk and work with middle schools, that actually talk and work with high schools, that actually scale into military possibilities, all branches of military. Apprenticeships is also part of educating our students and the ability for us to do work. And universities, including two-year universities, technical colleges, and community colleges. Often we pass grades ahead, and many of you have asked, well, what did you have for a grade in physics? And they said, I got a B+. What does that tell you? Nothing if you don't know the metrics that were used inside of the previous institution. We don't pass along what a student knows and is able to do, right? Well, we have ACT scores. That's great, but what are they able to do with it is the idea. So concurrent education is really talking about having all these islands talk to each other and work together. This is a take from Sesame Street. I'd like to introduce the letter T to you. It comes in many different shapes and sizes. In places I go to, schools I work with, these folks spend more time and energy saying we can't do that and defending that position than actually working towards a goal that's needed by those who are asking them to do things. Pages and pages and hours and phone calls defending we can't do that. When one little letter can make a whole difference in things. Just like that white dot, you might be able to take that one letter out of what you do and provide that effort towards helping students, towards helping organizations, towards helping build communities. That's the idea. Because these folks are the ones that are going to be serving you in your communities. If we don't educate these kids now, they're the ones that are going to go out into your communities and serve you. They're the ones that are going to read your ashtrays, plumb your houses, right? Fix the electricity on the streets so that the lights work. When the lights go out on your house, these are the folks that are actually putting them back on. So either you teach them now or pay for it later.